Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, welcome. How nice to be back with you today for the next of our Jewelry Industry Voices webinars, the last of our series of webinars for 2020, a year that none of us are going to forget, I think. Now, don't be sad that this is the last. We will be back with you in January, and I'll give you some more information on that later. So welcome to this webinar. This is the third webinar where we're very proud to welcome a sponsor. We're very proud that today GemCloud Software has agreed to join us for season 2 of Jewelry Industry Webinar, Jewelry Industry Voices, as our technology sponsor. So we extend thanks to Veronica and Patricia and all the team at GemCloud for your support and your collaboration. GemCloud is a Bangkok-based company delivering products specifically tailored for the colored gemstone industry. It was founded by a group of gemstone and jewelry experts, and they hope to transform the industry by creating so much value for each of their vendors that their businesses basically run themselves. This webinar series, hosted by CIBJO, the World Jewelry Confederation, looks at issues of interest in the jewelry business from the perspective of industry figures. So welcome to you all. My name is Edward Johnson. I am one of the moderators today, and I'm joined by CIBJO's Head of Communications, Steve Benson in Tel Aviv. Today, in the 4th edition of season 2, we will investigate how technology is promising to build a more robust and competitive gemstone trade, and how we can balance that with respecting the traditions, the individuality, and the complexity of this unique and ancient trade. We expect this webinar to last 1 hour. Now, understandably, we've had lots of interest in this topic, and it's great to see so many of you giving your time to join in today. It's an important discussion, and one that needs to be had in the time of COVID, and as we come out of this pandemic, as the world and the way we do business is changing so dramatically. I'd like to extend thanks to people that have helped me in some discussions on this topic in preparation for today, especially to Emmanuel Piat in Paris from CIBJO's Colored Stone Commission, also Patricia Siverud from the University of Delaware's Jewelry Development Index, Stefan Fischler in Antwerp, who is the president of CIBJO's Technology Commission, Richard Harouni and Alan Pulteney from London, and also very kindly a wonderful conversation last night with CIBJO Vice President Roland Naftoul. And Roland, I'm very pleased to see that you got up so early in the morning to be with us. Thank you. Nice to be with you. Now, since it's kind of the end of term here and the end of the year, I wanted to share just a few details of what we've achieved together through this webinar series. We started in April, and through to November, we've had 18 different webinars up till today. We've invited and been supported by 67 different panelists from all over the world and all over the jewelry supply chain. We've had over 7,300 viewers in the series, and that's an average of about 410 views of each webinar. We also had 2 seminar webinars, a mix of both in-person and digitally viewed events at Voice in Vicenza in September, one on CSR and also one on the African jewelry trade. And they were watched by thousands of people online, those who participated in that important and symbolic first in-person jewelry trade event in Italy in early September. So it's lovely to be with you all again, and Steve Benson, my co-host in Tel Aviv. Good afternoon to you, Steve. How are things with you today?
Thank you, Ed, from a unusually rainy Tel Aviv. I'm going to be very brief, just to give a few technical details to people who are on the webinar. We're going to try keep it to an hour, which we are normally not successful with, but we will aim to keep everything done by the end of the hour. If you want to ask questions, what we request is that you ask them in writing in the Q&A box, and we have left time for questions, and we will try to get to everyone. At the same time, the chat box is open, and you can comment and chat as the webinar proceeds. The webinar will be uploaded to YouTube most probably tomorrow morning, just depending on how quickly we can get through the recording and the slide edit that we do and we upload. So it will so a recording of the full webinar will be available on Sibjo's YouTube channel from tomorrow. And that at this stage is about it for me. So what I would like to do is to call on the Sibjo President, Gaetano Cavalieri, just to say a few words of welcome. Gaetano?
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much, Ed. Let me also thank all our panelists and obviously the sponsor, Veronica, with this new venture, which it looks to be very, very interesting and successful. So congratulations, Veronica, for what you have done, and also for the support you are giving to our panel and our webinars, and obviously not considering the fact that you are helping and supporting Sibjo and the industry in general. Let me go back to what was the very beginning, when overnight we had and faced this problem, which are still facing, meaning the pandemic with COVID-19. And obviously none of us was thinking, 12 months ago, that something like this would happen in the world. Let me also take this opportunity to remember those who we lost, and also to honor those who are suffering, because overall, one of the elements in Sibjo, particularly in Sibjo, that we have seen is a very high sense of humanity, of a real friendship all around the world, supporting each other with a sincere sense of brotherhood. And this is one of the elements why Sibjo is all about. Not only for the industry, but also bringing people together under the same roof, physical or virtual, like in this case, and clearly is our main goal to have this kind of conversation in order to focus all our attention to what is the main element of each industry, in particular our industry, meaning the consumer, in a way that is transparent, that is responsible, that is ethical, that is sustainable. And we are working tirelessly in order to reach it in the way we are doing it. Obviously, we do not pretend to be perfect, but still we do all our best in order to give the industry, and through the industry to the consumer, the best we can. So thank you all, and the very best wishes. If I will have the opportunity to say a few words at the end, it will be a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm sure we'll get to you at the end. Thank you, Gaetano. Let me introduce our panelists today. Let me start with Veronica Farrowson. From a background as a corporate lawyer in Milan, Veronica transitioned her career to strategy and luxury consulting and completed her MBA in 2011 prior to joining Fabergé and Gemfields in London. In 2018, Veronica co-founded GemCloud, and one of her priorities is to find ways to address traceability and sustainability issues in the industry. Good evening to you, Veronica, from Bangkok. It's late at night, 9 o'clock at night. So did you have a nice dinner today?
Howard, yes, and everybody. Yes, a very nice dinner and a very nice glass of wine, of course.
Lovely, thank you. It's nice for you to join us, thank you. Next, Menachem Sevdermesh. Menachem is an educator, an inventor, a gemologist, and a successful gem trader. Relevant to today's discussion, he is an internationally recognized authority on gem color, gem commercialization and processing, and the inventor of Gem eWizard, a unique computer-based color communication, grading, and trading system for color gemstones and for diamonds. Menachem, good afternoon to you. You're in Tel Aviv. How are things? How's the weather in Tel Aviv today?
As Steve said, it's raining. We had a little bit of floods here and there, but I've seen worse. But we're okay. The industry is in a bit of a standstill because of the corona. Nobody can come over from abroad. The dealers that come to buy diamonds here, and the salespeople from here that travel abroad, or the people from Israel who go to buy in India. So everything is a little bit in a standstill, but we believe that we are on the right track now with all the new, in fact, maybe this crazy time will improve us in the future because we are getting used to digitization and working on the net. So
absolutely, thank you, Menachem. Yes, there's so many positives we can take out of this situation. Thank you and welcome. Next to Daniel Niefele. Daniel is a previous Jewelry Industry Voices panelist, having joined us in June to discuss gemstone traceability. And if you want to review that, it's available to watch on YouTube, Sibjo's YouTube channel, which you can access through Sibjo's webinar page on our website. Daniel is a geologist by formation, and the pun is intended, and he completed his PhD in mineralogy. Previously a strategy consultant, he joined the Gubelin Gem Lab in 2003. Daniel, welcome back. Back for more of this enjoyable experience with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. A pleasure to be here again. Thank you very much for keeping us in mind.
And last but not least, Tobias Corment. Tobias co-founded 77 Diamonds with Vadim Weinig, his partner, in 2005, setting out to create a jewelry company that would transform the diamond industry. His background is in the online luxury industry, which he says gives him an understanding of the emotional significance and symbolism embodied in every jewel. Tobias, welcome. You're just down the road from us, from me here in London. Can I ask you, what's behind the name 77 Diamonds?
First of all, just thank you for having me. And it's fantastic to be together with such esteemed colleagues from the industry. So we're privileged to be here. Yeah, so in 1477, we have the first recorded diamond engagement ring, Archbishop Maximilian. And I've got some Austrian connections, so it relates to that. But actually, light travels at 186,000 miles per second. When it hits a diamond, it slows down to 77,000 miles per second, and then goes back out to the same speed that it entered. So we kind of like the geeky fact as well.
Great. Now it seems like you've been asked that question a few times. So great answer though, and a nice reason for the company name. Thank you. Now, please note that none of the opinions or information offered in this webinar constitutes legal, financial, or official advice. Sibjo provides a global perspective on the gem and jewelry industry. So please, for more precise information, we encourage you to play an active part in your local trade association and also seek advice which is relevant to your location and your business. So we want to talk first about using technology to answer the needs of the modern consumer. As we know, and is oft said when we talk amongst the trade, without the consumer, none of us have a role. So it's always important to think primarily about the consumer's needs and to answer those needs. And many people are starting now to use technology to do that. Veronica, can I turn to you first? Why is the shift to embrace technology particularly important for the colored gemstone industry?
Just checking I was unmuted, sorry. So first of all, thank you, Ed, for organizing this. I know how much job there is behind an organization of such a global webinar. And thanks to Sibjo and Mr. Cavalieri to have us here tonight and for his very touching and important words towards this very difficult moment. But let's be optimistic, in the end, the year is ending. And to go to your question, before we say why technology can actually be important, it's very useful to spend a couple of very short words about the color gemstone industry, because it's definitely one of a kind. It is fascinating, it's diverse, it's multi-layered, and it plays a vital role for millions of people around the world. Just to say, there are above 200 types of gemstone that are used in jewelry today, and they are mostly sourced globally from artisanal and small-scale mining operators and traded through a largely informal economy. So each gemstone has its own supply chain. Each player, each stakeholder has its own language. And because there is a lack of standardized nomenclature, let's say that it's very difficult to have a one-size-fits-it-all approach. And transaction up to last year, they were happening mostly face-to-face and all based on trust. Today, things are changed, and for sure, COVID-19 has impacted traveling for a long time, and we are all working in a new way. So in this context, actually, technology can be a big binding agent, can ease and connect the whole supply chain. And today, I think technology is a mandatory step. And both buyers and sellers who want to resume their operation, today they need to embrace technology in order to be connected.
You had that great quote when we were chatting the other day that technology has brought a new player to the game. And I like that quote. Tell us more about GemCloud, if you can, briefly, and what you're trying to achieve with your service and products.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. So first of all, GemCloud's core mission is to be one of the driving forces behind the industry digitization. We build tech solutions for the different actors of the industry and provide them with a standardized environment, which includes a grading system for color gemstones. So on one side, for gemstones vendors, such as traders and miners, we have created web-based business management software that increases the efficiency of their operation by automating time-consuming tasks and enable them to get full control of their gemstone inventory. As we say at GemCloud, you have your business in a dashboard. And for gemstone buyers, on the other side, we provide a curated online marketplaces that enable them to purchase gemstones online and in a vetted environment. Also, we built our technology to support the transparency of the journey of a gemstone from mine to market, and this facilitates traceability at every stage.
Okay. Let me turn, if I can, from one of the newer entrants in the market to somebody that has a long history in the colored gemstone business, Menachem. What do you feel, Menachem, are the main issues affecting the trade that technology can resolve?
I think that world gem business suffers from lack of, I should say, common language and agreed language of communication. That means you can't really describe your stone properly to somebody on the other side of the world. So what happened before COVID, you just knocked on his door and showed him the stone. But today, because of the new modern, what's happening, is everything is going online, and we need to have a language and to be able to show and the qualities of the stones, not only through images, but also the commitment of the thing behind, partly like what GemCloud is doing, and some other thing, additional information. But I think the most important thing is lack of common language.
But do you think, I mean, that common language, of course, we have it in diamonds because we have a very universally accepted diamond grading system, which has been around for many decades now. And people can refer to that. Of course, it is a communication system, and it helps and aids the ability to communicate. But do you think that for colored stones, if we gather and communicate about digital information, or the information is described digitally, is there a chance that that can actually harm or disrupt the process of the dealer selling and then the consumer buying?
Well, obviously there is more, we say, illusion in the sales of gemstones because you can't properly describe it. If you describe a diamond and saying it's an EVVS 3 carats, good cutting, XX, everybody knows what you are talking about. If you say, even if you say 2.5 carat pigeon blood ruby, depends which pigeon did you meet. Was it a Jewish pigeon in New York that you killed to see the blood, or a pigeon in South Africa that was run out by it? There is no common language. Even when you have a description, if you say dark blue, amazing velvety blue, nobody really knows what you mean. So there is no way to describe. Now, Gemstone always had the need for more of face-to-face work. So I don't think that this will disappear. However, I think that technology will give an extra tool to the gem world to move forward and to be able to work in the new world, because it's very nice to say, okay, we are losing the close contacts and the personal contact, but the whole world is being digitized. The whole world is going online. So we should do, I think, some kind of a collaboration between the old ways and the new ways. Not ignore the old ways, because then we will harm, but not ignore also the new technology that can improve. Does it kill the old ways? No. You still need many times face-to-face in the shop to show the stone, etc., because you can't describe it just, DIF 3 carats. No.
I think that's very important to stress that, isn't it? And whatever way we develop as an industry going forward, it has to be a balance, respecting tradition and respecting the uniqueness of colored stones, but we have to move with the times and especially move with the needs of the consumer.
Yes.
Daniel, as somebody...
Let's also not forget that a lot, if not many million dollars of gemstones are sold on the net. So we do have to help those people get what you see is what you get. And how do you help them that? With new technology to the consumer and also to the sell people.
That's a really important point. What you see is what you get. I mean, Daniel, if I can turn to you as a gem lab and one of the most world-renowned gem labs, you're charged with describing the color and the quality of gemstones for your clients. But technology demands and enables a standardization and a commoditization, if I can, of gemstones when we start to put them in a pigeonhole, to mix the metaphors with pigeon's blood. So, I mean, do you think that is it a cure or is it a curse to have this move towards standardization and commoditization of gemstones?
Menachem already mentioned most of the important statements regarding that. You know, obviously, we want to have the cure, we want to have the benefits as an industry, always thinking of the end consumer, and we will try to kind of avoid the curse that comes with it. You know, Menachem said it. You know, it's technology as such will not replace whatever we have done in the past as an industry. So the standardization that is needed, you know, to reduce the complexity of an item, of an asset, such as a gemstone or a piece of jewelry, to make it tradable, to make it comparable, to make it communicable out on a digital platform, should not kill the individuality and those kind of special traits that every stone, and specifically every color gemstone, brings along. So it's about finding a balance. It's nothing black or white, either or. It's the perfect combination. What are the parts that it makes sense and it is a value added if you can use some type of technology to use them and to sell them and communicate them to the end consumer? And what are the parts that technology cannot or cannot reasonably well or sufficiently take over, where we still want to have a human eye, individualized and specific language?
I always want to bring the consumer's voice into the conversation. As I said at the beginning, they're the paymaster for all of us. And Tobias, turning to you as the retailer in the room, you speak to consumers on a daily basis. And what are their concerns that they have when they're purchasing colored gemstones online, and what can you do as a retailer to overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really interesting listening to people talk here about the color gem market. From a consumer, you know, we live and die by listening to the consumer and acting accordingly. And we for years have wanted to sell gemstones to our consumers because there was a demand for it. They would come to us and go, you do diamonds, you must be able to do gemstones. And, you know, the problem is that the gemstone industry is so much more complicated than the diamond industry. And I think that's something that's happened. It's evolved. You know, the GIA created a completely different type of industry. We all of a sudden you were able to start to compare between diamonds, but because diamonds are less complicated in many ways than gemstones, it's in some ways easier to do. But I think what's happened in diamonds, you know, there's been a wave of technology that's washed through the diamond industry and fundamentally changed it. And I think that wave is now pushing into the gemstone industry with companies like GemCow who are innovating in a really fantastic way and bringing the standardization. The issue is that the consumer is confused, and the expert level of indicators in gemstones is too complicated for the consumer. There's only a small pocket of niche consumers that really get the differences. And so what you have is, you know, we have consumers coming to us and they don't understand the differences between, you know, rubies and sapphires and why there's, you know, such a dramatic difference. And people like GemCloud are starting, they're recognizing that they're taking the expert level of understanding and they're saying, how can we present that to consumers in a easier to digest way? Now, if I draw on the diamond industry as an example, we've been dealing with a lot of diamond dealers, and you know, they have differentials in pricing. 1 carat GBS2, that can be 20, 30% price difference. Sometimes it can be as dramatic as that. And we're negotiating or talking to some, you know, somebody who's providing the diamonds, and they're holding on to this concept, but my GBS2 is so much better than the other GBS2s that it deserves this premium. But the consumer in the end doesn't get that, because if the stone has a good color and it's eye clean and it's certified as a natural diamond, then actually that premium, you know, what's happened is that the industry used to be like that, where there was always this, you know, the marginal differences made a big difference in price. But actually, the industry has changed because technology brings all of to the consumer. And the consumer has spoken with the voice that says, actually, once it's certified and it's a GVS2, I'm not going to pay 20% more for the fact that the inclusions are small and to the side and not black and whatever it may be. And so that will come to the gemstone industry. It is coming to the gemstone industry. And that can't be stopped. And so what needs to happen is standardization needs to continue to occur to the consumers. And it will change the way that people understand it. The good side, the upside, is that more people will then be able to access gemstones and really understand something between a heavily treated stone and something that's been, lightly treated. But it also means that some of the old ways that are being held on to that make the stones extra expensive, some of that may need to be scaled back a little bit. People need to change their ways to some extent. But so I think that there's a possibility of reaching more consumers and being able to educate them. But we need change to come through. It's a wave that started that won't be stopped.
Education is crucial, isn't it? You said that the consumer is confused at the moment. What's the main area from your perspective as the retailer? What is it that confuses them most? The differences in the color communication, the slight haziness sometimes as to where the stone has come from. What is the main essence of the confusion?
I think what it comes down to is why is a stone that looks very similar priced so different, and why stones with similar specs priced so different? I think the layer of complexity in gemstones is by a factor of 10. Now that the good news for the traditional gemstone market is that there is room for lots of niche players because there is such a big difference between the gemstones. You can't commoditize it like you commoditize, like the trend that happened so strongly in diamonds. You cannot do that to gemstones to some extent unless you're at the low price end. Okay, but they don't understand the price differences, where the small differences, the layers of complexity, is really where they get confused. And so if you want more consumers to be buying more gemstones, you're going to have to communicate to them in a simpler and clearer way, which is what companies like GemCloud is all about. And that's a trend that other people have embraced, retailers have embraced, we've embraced it in our offering, and it's been successful, and our consumers are actually buying gemstones online. One of the biggest things to overcome is technology. Menachem mentioned it earlier, capturing the color. If you can describe the color, it's helpful, but actually digitally capturing color is virtually impossible. So in the end, you will still need that endpoint. If people really, really want to touch and feel and see, you don't need it to the same extent in diamonds, but you do. Which one of the reasons why we have showrooms is, which will play well with the whole gemstone offering. But so it's actually, I don't think you can completely commoditize it. A lot of the traditions need to be respected. A lot of the traditional ways that occur, I think, will still be there. I don't think technology will just wash it away. Right.
Yeah, good. I mean, and you mentioned that the main area that they're confused about is the price difference. And of course, that's set by the quality. So one of the important points is, how do we as an industry communicate gemstone quality when we're operating online? So let's turn to that for a discussion about the communication of quality of gemstones when we're selling them online. Daniel, of course, the quality, it's difficult to quantify in a gemstone. That's why we don't have an accepted trading, grading and communication system. So that means that trading them digitally is a challenge. That's the whole point of this discussion. What do you feel is needed to assess and to trade gemstones, colored gemstones, digitally? You got one of the quotes of 2020, which is "you're on mute." Yeah.
I know, yeah. The most obvious answer is standards, I would assume, and to agree on a language that is understood by the trade, but not only by the trade. I mean, Tobias mentioned it perfectly, for the end consumer, this complexity is overwhelming. Even for experts, sometimes it is difficult to kind of understand the complexity of colored gemstones. You know, even people that are in trade for decades might have a hard time to actually gauge, to put a value on a specific gemstones, you know, so that is a massive challenge. And we as an industry risk to lose out on the end consumer completely. So the language has to be simple. You know, I mean, the sheer amount of different type of gemstones, species, varieties, colors, treatments, origins, you know, I mean, honestly, end consumers, they will walk away. They go for another luxury product because it's so complex for them to deal with. So, and they also might not want to depend always on that expert, you know, usually the seller that is explaining them, that has this authority of explanation, what is beautiful and what is rare. Nowadays, clients are used to kind of have a bit, to be empowered a bit and having a bit of power on their side when it comes to make a judgment and ultimately makes a decision. So that language should be simple enough for the end consumer to grasp, or to kind of to get orientation in this massive multidimensional space of color gemstones.
And so what can labs do to be supporting that, labs like Gubelin?
Well, I mean, you might hint to the service that we have launched recently, which is a rating system where we have basically just looked at the couple of 10,000 stones that we have had the privilege to see in the last decades, by now, meanwhile, 96 years, where we see a lot of the high-end gemstones. And we have basically assessed or built this or evaluated that data to build a system that is bottom-up based on certain quality standards, color, transparency, cut, based on certain rarity standards, and then crunched these individual parameters into one single number. And we are somehow comparing that rating system with the wine rating system that this Mr. Parker was developing a long time ago. And it might kind of look at the first glance of taking away the complexity, but this is exactly the intention, you know, that we kind of want to have something that is quite comprehensive, but at the same time also easy enough and simple enough for the end consumer to get orientation. Again, as I mentioned before, it's not going to explain everything. We still need the seller that is drawing the attention of the buyer to that specific beauty and all those individual aspects, what we all love about colored gemstones, because they do have individuality, almost personality. You know, these gemstones, every gemstone is unique. But on the other hand, we should also give kind of an orientation in terms of something like a simple number, a simple number. And that's why we as a Gem Lab, already coming from a side where we are not having a direct role, so we are not kind of a partner in a stone. So we have a bit of a less dependent role regarding an individual transaction. That's why we feel comfortable now coming up with such a system and rating gemstones in the system that we have starting to talk about and launched a couple of weeks ago.
And how's the industry received that new gemstone rating system you launched?
Well, it's quite amazing. You know, everybody has quite a clear opinion. You know, it's we get a lot of positive reactions. We get a lot of negative reaction, criticism. We also get a lot of a constructive criticism. They are asking us questions, and we love that because we can answer those questions. Overall, we feel that the more east and the younger the comments, the more positive they are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck with that going forward. It's an important step, but there are challenges along the way. Tobias, you had something to add.
It's just more of a question, but I think that's fine, you know, Daniel, that covers the top end of the market. But what about the next tier down and the tier down after that as well? I think those elements of the market needs to be addressed as well. I think GemCloud is obviously one of those people that's doing it, but I'm just wondering if you have any plans, you know, because it costs quite a lot of money with certification, and you know, you have a fantastic track record in terms of, you know, the top end, top quality gemstones, but you know, the mass market or the larger consumption is happening below that, you know, those tiers, and they need education and they need standardization as well.
You want me to comment on that?
Yes, please.
Well, I mean, the scope of minerals that we have included in that system is not only ruby, sapphire, emeralds. It has minerals such as aquamarine, indigolite, morganite, heliodor, different type of garnets. Not everything, but the kind of it has a certain range, you know, a certain variety. We would not have felt comfortable to do that even for the very commercial, very low-end products, because the system that we have built would have been not being able to cope with that complexity, and B, we would also not have had the basis of data that would have given us the confidence to do it, because we do not want to have our gemologist making a rating, because that's not, as an individual, you cannot do that. The system we have built is based indeed on massive amount of data, on concrete data, where we can assess the beauty quality of the stone, and where that is related with having the amount of data over the years. We also have an idea about the rarity of the data, but we are positioned in a certain segment, and that's where we feel comfortable. And so there might be others, or maybe in cooperation with others, where we might also reach out to other areas of the full realm of colored gemstones.
Okay. Listen, I'd like to bring Menachem into the conversation, Menachem, because you know you're really the pioneer in terms of launching and inventing and a system that describes color online and using it digitally with your Gem Wizard, which has been around now for what, 20 years or so. The perception of color, though, is so dependent upon the conditions under which the stone is viewed. We all know this as people who've looked at stones in different light, or even at different times of the day, they look different. So how can you account for this in a digital color communication system? And we've got some slides up on the screen that might help in the conversation.
Yeah, first of all, allow me to add something to what was just said. We did quite a big research on qualities of gem from the highest grades to the lowest grade. And some things really amazed us. For example, what is thought to be top quality in Germany is not what is thought to be top quality in Hong Kong, and is not what is thought to be top quality in India. People don't realize that quality also depends on the area. Another thing that we did with our artificial intelligence in the last 3 years, big research, we found it also depends at the age of the people. You know, to people of 25, the millennials, young millennials, color, top quality colors, what they think is not the top quality colors that the older generation think. And generally, what I'll tell you is that the younger generation prefer lighter, generally lighter goods. So what is beautiful is really in the eye of the beholder around the world. And this is something that gemstones, you know, always had it. And maybe this is one of the extra properties that these stones has, and that's what brings them the value. But let's see now alternative color systems. We had the colors that the GIA had with plastics, which was excellent system. We have the Gem Dialogue, an excellent system, but it's printed. We had the Mansell. We had the World of Color, excellent system that is done by the guide, really describing.
Yeah, and I believe Richard Drucker is with us in the room as well.
Yeah, Richard Drucker, this is an amazing system, very good one, and really explains the color practically of each stone, but it's printed. And we have these plastics of the GIA, which was a good system. And then we have here a digital system which is not exactly made for gemstones. And we have Gem Wizard. What we did in Gem Wizard is, in fact, we took the GIA way of describing color in their plastics and in the printing and digitized it. So if we can go to the next slide, I can explain. We took 150,000, today is probably 500,000 images. We didn't care how they were measured. We just needed to use and create an algorithm that will pick up these facets from this stone and move it into a 3D round. You see here, there is a 3D computer, and that means the computer created a 3-dimension thing, which was a gem in round. Practically of all each facets was copied to the right place or to the place that the system decided should be in the round. And from that, we created a 2D flat colors, which are exactly the same as the 3D. This enabled us to have, when we placed these rulers, we had something like 150,000 rulers. And together with the GIA, we can move to the next slide. Together with the GIA, we actually placed those rulers in the what we call color pie, all the colors around the world. And we actually created what we call the Gemmy Square and then the Gemmy Pro, which actually has got close to 7,000 locations of color in different styles. Now, of course, there is difference in each one of the screens that you see, but let's not forget, people buy on the screens today. Hello, wake up. They buy on the screens. You have to help them to buy and to know that what they see is what they get. Because if they will think that this is the color that they are going to get, they will be more assured about the quality. Another thing that we did is, as I told you, when we showed and we did research on each gem, rubies, sapphires, etc., millions and millions of reports from all around the world using our AI. And Steve Benson was one of the first people that saw it. How many years ago, Steve? I think 18 years. I think, no, to 18 years, no? Maybe more.
Yeah, well, you're aging me, yeah, but yeah, that's probably 18 years ago, yeah.
Yes, and we started, and then we realized not only that we can actually describe the color of stones and find what we believe is better qualities than the others, and we have what we call the Gemmy grade and the Gemmy price, which is something different. But the ability to give a tool, and we showed it also to Sibjo, the ability to give a tool for the people to know which color they're looking at. I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's that's a crucial thing, and you've mentioned it a couple of times. What you see is what you get is a crucial element to all of this, and using technology for that. Veronica, when you're building these systems online for trading gemstones on behalf of dealers, some dealers are concerned that when you trade online, you give increased information, and this has the potential to confuse the end customer who's not a gemologist, who's not a jewelry or a gemstone expert. We think about it, every different stone type has different criteria, and you need to educate to be able to sell with confidence, and that's what a retailer does. So is there a chance that you're with increased information, you're confusing the customer? As we know, a confused customer doesn't buy. How should the industry deal with this?
Thank you for this very interesting and complex question. And I think that you are giving voice and you are piggybacking on Tobias when he says the consumer is confused. So it is true that if we compare the colored gemstone industry with the diamond industry, the main difference is that the diamond offering has been structured through a universal grading system that has been developed by GIA and adopted and accepted by nearly all the gemological laboratories today. So once an end consumer goes to buy online, offline a diamond, it can easily access to consistent information about diamonds, which have been created with the universal grading system as a backbone. So even education is based on that. And this has, of course, resulted in high consumer confidence in diamond. And this is why diamond jewelry industry is today nearly $100 billion US market. So I believe that the color gemstone industry has a tremendous potential for growth. And this can happen if we can build it in a way where we can increase end consumer confidence. That's the key. This, to go back to also what Tobias said, this does not necessarily mean that we need to reproduce what has been done with diamonds, but we need to adapt it, taking in consideration the differences and the challenges of the color gemstones.
Yeah,
So
yeah, thank you.
in our point of view, yeah, this is, I mean, to have different grading system is okay, so long as there is a common universal nomenclature that can be used as a reference. And that's why I think entity like SIBJO is very important, because here we need to put together scientists, traders, and all the different stakeholders that in the end use it on a daily basis.
Thank you. Let's move on. I do want to have some time to talk about social responsibility, because technology is driving some improvements in this important area. But again, we need to understand what the consumer thinks, what the retailer is hearing from the consumer. So Tobias, in your experience, what kind of questions do consumers have about the social impact, the positive or negative, that colored gemstones have? And is the trade doing enough to satisfy those concerns?
Yeah, look, relatively new to gemstones, although we've been doing it for a while. We're now doing it seriously, and the questions are quite similar actually to the diamond industry questions as well. It's always about origin, so that's number one, top of the list. People want to know that there's, that the product they're buying is origin assured. So that that's one of the most important things. And the traceability, is so incredibly key to that. And there isn't the same kind of large players like De Beers, for example, which has made an enormous effort to clean themselves up and clean the diamond industry up, and then other bodies and countries that are all participating. So I think you need that as well. But I think that the gemstone industry is being quick now to, it feels like they're being quick to starting to adopt that traceability chain. I know that GemCloud is working on it. Menachem, I don't know, I'd love to hear your opinion on where we are with that, and Gublin as well. So I think, the origin is definitely at the top. And then in addition to that, the geographic location, is there any conflict, issues, areas that they're uncomfortable about? But people do care, and they are asking, and are starting to differentiate. They are happy to pay more if there's a better origin assured offering.
Well, let's bring Daniel into the conversation, because of course Gublin have pioneered nanotechnology and blockchain to enable traceability. Give us your thoughts on that, Daniel. Of course, we know that the consumer is wanting more origin. We know the challenges. We've discussed this already. But do you think systems like what you've developed could encourage a two-tier market with accessibility to these systems and the cost, meaning that some players are priced out of the market?
Well, Edward, if you don't mind, I would like first to ask a question to Tobias. When you say origin is important, is it more the traditional question that they have, that they want to know, yes, it's a Kashmiri sapphire, yes, it's a Colombian, from the quality point of view that developed into a brand? Or is it more that they say, I want to know that it's coming from that location, or I want to support a mining community in XY? So what they have in mind when they're asking for the provenance?
So traditionally it was the first, and then it's becoming the latter.
Okay.
Sorry, the consumer is getting more educated, and the fact that it's a Kashmiri and it's got a price, that was, I would say, the traditional consumer. They were aware, if they had done a bit of research, that there is differences in pricing of origin. But in addition to that, they want to know more information. So if you can talk about, for example, the mine that it came from, where it was cut, etc. Those are the kind of pieces of information increasingly that we're getting asked. And, a lot of the time we can't answer all of it. We can answer some of it. So we're trying to only work with people who can supply where we know the origin of the stone. I mean, you guys verify the origin of the stone, but you know, if you can go further than that and actually know where it was mined, when it was mined, etc. as well. I mean, those kind of pieces of information are increasingly important.
Okay, thank you. So if you want me to continue, Ed, right now on your question, I think it was about whether the technologies such as the ones that we are developing and marketing under the provenance proof label, whether they help, whether they make the big guys bigger and might kind of sideline the small ones, right? That was it.
Thank you for phrasing it much better than I did.
Okay, so I mean, with a provenance proof, part of our mission statement is that the technologies have to be accessible to everyone, so no exclusivities to no company, and they have to be affordable. In case of the blockchain, we manage quite well. The use is free of charge, so it's the Gubelin family that's absorbing the cost for the years to come. That it takes to kind of run that system. Of course, we think, and we are busy building also additional add-on services where we want to charge for, but the basic use, you know, to register, to upload stone, to forward stones, to see the history of a stone or of a parcel of stone is free of charge, which I think is one of the reasons why, meanwhile, a large majority of the 300 plus companies that are using the platform today are small businesses. Many of them are actually one-man shops, you know, and that's the beauty of technology nowadays. It has become so cheap, and not only cheap, it also has become so easy to use. You know, the technology might be complex in the background, but it's nowadays those UX, those UIs are so kind of easy. You use your smartphone, you need a bit of airtime, and even in the remotest area in sub-Saharan Africa, you can use it, you know, and you don't have to be a tech geek to use it. So that's the beauty of it, I believe. So honestly, I believe that technology is rather leveling the playing field because it's cheap, even free for sometimes, rather than stratifying or making the big cats becoming bigger.
Yeah, that's often the concern for a lot of people, that this, you know, it'll make a bigger distinction between the haves and the have-nots, especially when the large percentage of our colored stones are coming from artisanal and small scale producers. So this is something that people are asking us. Another thing that people are asking us, and Veronica, I think this is interesting for GemCloud, is how can technology actually be used to satisfy the consumer requirements for more transparency and more responsible sourcing in the trade?
Thanks, that's an excellent point. I mean, technology is a very powerful tool, and it can certainly be used to increase transparency of the industry, but it cannot be used as a standalone. The key, in fact, in transparency is to build content, processes, framework to enable transparency, and then use technology to strengthen them and to back it up. For example, technology can be used safely coordinating all the different stakeholders, making sure that the documentation generated is safely stored and is incorruptible. And then, for example, you can use blockchain systems. And another very important way, it's maybe more basic, but it's very important way that technology can be used is to give voices to all the stakeholders along the supply chain and to build the stories like, for example, Nespresso did with the National Geographic, helping small artisanals, crop farmers to create stories and to make better farming. So we believe that this is a very important pillar to build confidence.
And what we've got on screen, sorry to interrupt, but what we've got on screen is a picture of the Tanzanian Women in Mining Association, which is exactly the kind of women's cooperative that we need to be working with more closely. Daniel, thank you for providing this. It's good to see Monica Gachui in the heart of all of that work. Monica was a previous Jewelry Industry Voices webinar panelist with us back in September as well. You know, we're again not quite hitting our aim of getting this all done within an hour, but I tell you, I've been listening intently, so I hope the audience have as well. But I am conscious we got some questions in the Q&A box. So, but as a final thought, as a final question for all of you, can I ask briefly, please, and I do mean briefly, what is the single most important factor that will lead to a successful integration online for colored gemstones? One thing without which everyone will struggle. Daniel, can I ask you to start?
Well, I think what we try to do, and that's probably what you feel now from being a player in the industry, you might have seen the Gubelin Gem Lab as trying to serve the trade for many decades, which is still our direct client. And we have, in the last couple of years, shifted our point of view to about what does the end consumer need. And that's what I think we might sometimes forget. We are pretty much absorbed with what do we think what our immediate client needs, we as an industry, you know, and if we kind of are really trying hard to adopt the end consumer's point of view, that might help us also be more open towards embracing not only new technologies, but new methods, new approaches, maybe giving up old habits and so on.
Menachem, same question to you.
First of all, about the systems to, in fact, to describe the qualities, etc. I believe the more the public will know, the more they will buy gemstones. This is something that, you know, I found it when we started in the diamond world, where 1975, there were not much certification of diamonds, and the diamond dealers in Israel and India, there were not so many, and in Belgium were terrified from certification of gemstones, and that everybody will know the quality. And people were saying, do you mean that this white is the same as the other white because it has a certificate? Yes. I don't think we should be afraid of technology. I think that, you know, an institution like CIBJO should look into aspects of how to improve description, communication, grading, certification, etc., and improve this in between the dealers and also from the industry to the consumers. This is extremely important, that we should not be afraid.
Thank you, Menachem, for being brief. Tobias, can I turn to you for the last question? What the single most important thing?
Look, technology is driving transparency. Transparency of price, transparency of quality, and transparency of origin. And we need to embrace it.
Thank you. Veronica.
Collaboration. The spirit of technology is connectivity and easiness, but also collaboration. That's how we make good product. And that's what I think the industry really needs to come together to overcome the difficulties and the challenges and to make the colored gemstone flourish.
Collaboration and partnerships is always the way to go in any times, but especially in difficult times in which we live. So I like that. Thank you very much. We do have some good questions here. We have one which I'd like to put to you all from Nicholas. If it's Nicholas, I think it is. Hi, Nicholas in Bangkok. He says, I have the feeling that there are two big markets, one for commercial quality and one for the very high-end jewelers, and we need to separate these. This is an issue I've heard time and time again. How do we separate those two? Menachem, would you like to take that?
First of all, you know, we have a lot of respect to the Gubelin Lab, but the Gubelin Lab is something to take care of the important stuff around the world, and they've been doing it amazingly for many, many years. I mean, I've known Dr. Gubelin. I even stayed there for 3 months, almost 40 years ago, to study. But we need also a simple qualities or lower qualities laboratories, because with all due respect, it's quite expensive to take stones to Gubelin. AGL costs a little bit less, GRS costs a little bit less. So, but somebody has to supervise this mid-quality, and somebody has to make sure that the public can get the proper information from, I don't know what, you can call it lab, you can call it centers, to be able to get the right information, that a lady who buys a sapphire on the net should know that that's what she's getting, and she should know that this is not treated, etc., etc. This is also an obligation of CIBJO and ICA, of course, and this is exactly why we need this organization to help us create this, not for the top quality gems, but for all the world, which is from the low to the higher stones.
Yeah, Daniel, you wanted to add?
Yes, one short answer, one a bit longer. The short answer is technology helps with finding cheap solutions for that. There is one cooperative that is using our provenance-proof blockchain in Madagascar. They are putting cut-offs from semi-precious stones. So these things have a value of $1, maybe $2 per final piece.
Can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you as a representative of CIBJO? We try not to use the term semi-precious. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry. Mea culpa, mea culpa. And they are using that for all their goods, so it's so cheap. Now, the other answer is, you're raising an important point. Only expensive items can afford the cost and the trouble of being sent to a gem lab. Hey, how about if we try to get rid of those stupid gem labs? Their work is more than perfect. They make mistakes endless, although they have all these fancy technologies. I speak about us. So instead of doing this forensic approach or having the labs doing this forensic approach of having to go into ultra trace element chemistry and all that crap to find out if it possibly comes from Colombia or maybe comes from another place, why not investing this energy and why not deploying the technology that we can track where it's coming from? Our main motivation to go into these provenance-proof technologies was to kind of think of a better way for the end consumer to get rid of these gem lab reports.
Yeah, okay. I just want to answer a small question. You're talking about things that are coming now from the mines. Let's not forget that the public is holding and dealers are holding trillions of dollars of goods at their stocks and in the jewelry stores, etc., etc. You're talking about new gems. What about the old gems? Old, I'm talking 10 years ago, 15 years ago. These are billions of dollars of gemstones that, how will you find which mine they were mined at? So you want us to ignore the old goods and just look at the new one coming from the mine? No, we should find a way to help. Yes, I think, again, Daniel, it's a combination of what you do and the new things. That means, yes, test the existing things and also the future.
I think you're right. It's about respecting the traditions, but embracing the new, as we talked about at the beginning as well. Ladies and gents, as we suggested when we were chatting before we went live, the best stuff always comes at the end once we've got warmed up. But it is 10 minutes past. I am very conscious of everybody's time. It's Christmas selling season, so I can see Tobias is very keen to get back to all of his customers who are lining up online to buy his beautiful jewelry. And Veronica, I know, is very busy over there in Bangkok. Listen, thank you all very much for that spirited discussion. Gaetano, can I ask you to finish the year for Jewelry Industry Voices with a few words?
Thank you very much, Ed. And I want to thank all the panelists for all the discussion they brought on the table. I heard keywords: language, nomenclature, consumer is confused, education, standardization. And let me add also nature, trust, reputation, and clearly technology. This is an industry based on trust and reputation. And this is an industry which is producing everything, I would say, tailor-made, including the nature, that supply us the raw materials, including the stone. In fact, each stone is not equal to another stone. And one of the interesting activity that the experts are doing is matching when you need you know, to create something that many stones are needed, 2 or many stones are needed. Sibjo is working on that since 1926. And we have an incredible Colorstone Commission. We have people that I don't want to mention, including a good number that are in this moment in the group of participants that are not enthusiastic, but absolutely in love with the Colorstone part of our industry. I am saying, yes, Sibjo is taking very seriously care of everything you said. He is creating tools and guides in order to facilitate the consumer to better understand, because the consumer is understanding much better than what we think. So from one side, Tobias is correct when he say consumer is confused, but consumer is confused because probably the people and you know, in our industry are not behaving transparently. And I stress the meaning of transparency, reputation, honesty, which is something that is important. Still, I am not confident, super confident, that the best is to come in our industry, and specifically and particularly in Colorstone. And let me say that we are very lucky that we have a wonderful nature wherever in the world, from continent to continent. It doesn't make any difference, but certainly nature is the one that supplies us the real emotion. With that said, I don't want to go forward, but I want to thank everybody for having been with us. I am very enthusiastic and satisfied that this session of webinars with gems and jewelry industry voices and activity that we have done is bringing us so many people in the group of participants, as well incredible, super knowledged, esteemed panelists, of which a number are with us today. And you mentioned the many others that were with us. Daniel is one of our, let's say, key points and key person with us. But I want to wish all of you and your family a very, very, very Merry Christmas and a wonderful, sparkling 2021, hoping that finally the vaccine will bring away this pandemic from all of us, and we may have the pleasure to enjoy physically, not forgetting the technology and not forgetting what we have learned during this year, but we may have physically the pleasure to hug each other and to enjoy our friend having a cup of coffee or having dinner or having lunch all together. I want to thank all those that have been with us, from California, Roland, to Thailand, to other countries, even very far away, from New York to Africa. Thank you very much. Sibjo is your home. Please stay with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gaetano. Listen, when I attend these webinars, everybody always thanks everybody too much, but I do need to thank you all individually. Daniel, thanks for your time coming back again. More of our abuse. I really appreciate it. More of my abuse, interrupting you with pedantic points. I apologize. Menachem, it's great to have you with us, and thank you. Such a pioneer in this topic, and it's great to have you, and we wish your family all the best for the holidays. Tobias, I know you're itching to get back to business. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you on the roads of North London sometime. And Veronica, finally, thank you for your sponsorship and your support for everything we do. There's been a lot of questions about GemCloud. in the chat box and in the Q&A. So we know that we'll continue these discussions with you guys, and we look forward to, and we wish you and Philippe a very happy holidays as well.
Thank you very much.
To all of you, thank you for supporting our season this year. We will be back on January 14th in the new year. We're going to be getting our crystal ball out, and we're going to be talking about what jewelry retail will look like in the new normal. And we've got some fantastic panelists to be kicking off what is going to be a fantastic 2021. So please mark your diaries. Thursday, 2 p.m., January 14th, which again is a Thursday. And you'll receive information about that if you're on Sibjo's email list or if you're following us on any of the social media channels. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Gaetano and Steve. And most of all, thank you to all of you for spending your time with us today and throughout the season. From me personally, wishing you all a very happy holidays, and here's to a better 2021, eh? All the very best. Bye-bye.